Escapism is a simple concept. We all run away from something. Life is tough, heavy, and sometimes too real. We search for an exit, be it through books, movies, or just daydreaming. But what is it that makes us want to escape? Philosophers have thought about this for centuries, trying to figure out why we flee reality. And the answer isn't always simple. The world we live in is full of pain, disappointment, and pressure. Sometimes it's easier to build a different world in our minds than to face the one in front of us. Friedrich Nietzsche once said, "He who has a why to live can bear almost anyhow. But what happens when we lose that why? What happens when the how becomes unbearable?" This is where escapism comes in. Escapism is born from suffering. It's a response to life's pressures and absurdity. Nietzsche understood this when he talked about how we create illusions to cope. When reality becomes too hard, we turn to distractions, anything to take our mind off the pain. Jean-Paul Sartre, an existentialist, thought about this too. He said, "Man is condemned to be free. We have no choice but to choose." This freedom, according to Sartre, can feel like a curse. We are thrown into a world without clear purpose, and we are responsible for making sense of it. For some, this responsibility is too much to handle. We run from it. Escapism gives us a way to avoid, a way to avoid making tough choices or facing harsh truths. Plato had a story about this in his Allegory of the cave. In the cave, people are chained up, staring at shadows on a wall. These shadows are all they know. They think they are real, but the truth is, the real world exists outside the cave. The shadows are just illusions, false images of what life truly is. Many of us live like the people in the cave. We choose the shadows, our escapes, because they are easier to deal with than the full truth of reality. Escapism is a lot like living in that cave. We find comfort in our distractions, whether it's binge watching TV shows, scrolling endlessly on our phones, or getting lost in fantasies. We are avoiding something deeper. The real world, with all its complexity, asks too much of us, so we choose to live in a bubble where things seem easier, more controlled. But Plato warned against this. He believed that only by stepping out of the cave, by facing reality, could we live a meaningful life. But here's the thing, stepping into the light is painful. It's easier to stay with the shadows, to cling to our illusions. Buddha had something to say about this too. His philosophy revolves around the idea that life is suffering. To escape this suffering, we need to let go of our desires and attachments. But escapism is just another form of attachment. It's our desire to avoid suffering by running away from it. We think we are escaping, but in truth, we are just digging ourselves deeper into this hole. As Buddha would put it, we are trapped in the cycle of samsara, constantly avoiding the pain without really solving it. Karl Marx had his own take on escapism. He famously said, "Religion is the opium of the people." What he meant is that people turn to religion or other forms of escapism to dull the pain of life's harsh realities. But like opium, this escape is temporary. It doesn't solve the root problem. We're still stuck in a system that oppresses us, but religion makes us forget that for a while. In today's world, you could replace religion with social media, video games, or consumerism. All these things serve the same purpose: to numb us to the harsh truths of existence. But is escapism always a bad thing? Maybe not. Sometimes a little escape is necessary. It gives us a break, a chance to breathe, which we all deserve to. Albert Camus, the philosopher of absurdism, said, "The only way to deal with an unfree world is to become so absolutely free that your very existence is an act of rebellion." For Camus, life is absurd. It makes no sense. The only thing we can do is live it fully and freely. Maybe escapism, when done in moderation, is a way to reclaim our freedom. It lets us rebel against a world that feels overwhelming. In the end, escapism is a double edged sword, of course it is, and it can be a way to cope with the pain, but it can also trap us in a false reality. We need to ask ourselves, are we running away because we need a break, or are we running away because we're too scared to face the truth? All in all, escapism is human. We all need it sometimes, but it's important to remember that no matter how far we run, the real world is still there, and at some point we have to face it. As Nietzsche once said, the truth is terrible, but maybe it's worth facing that terrible truth if it means living a life that's real. The alternative is staying in the cave, watching shadows, and never knowing what's outside.